First of all, let's say that it's lasagne, not lasagna. Lasagna is one sheet. So when you refer to lasagne in Italian, it's always in the plural. And we're making a specific lasagne today because we're using spinach for the noodles. So we have our spinach. You want about 1/3 cup, as I say. We want to put 3 eggs in the machine. And we're going to put our spinach in with this and whirl this up. And we want a pinch, un pizzico di sale. So just a pinch of salt. Get it smooth. And now we have our flour. So let's see what that looks like. All right, looks pretty good. So now we're going to add our flour. I have 3½ cups of flour in here, but I'm not going to add all of the flour. I want to add some of it just to see what I get for a dough. So let's put most of it in and save some out. So now we're going to put this back on again. This is very easy to do. Once you have made dough in a machine, well, it's very simple. And what you're looking for is this dough to go around the blade. This machine is taller than I am. Okay. Now it's going around the blade. Now, you know, when I was growing up, my Neapolitan grandmother made a lot of dough. She made a lot of ravioli. And she always told me that the dough had to sleep. That was what she said. The dough had to sleep. I never really understood that. And I don't think she really understood what she was actually doing by allowing the dough to sleep. But that meant that she was allowing the gluten that is in the flour to relax. Because if we tried to roll this out right now, we would have a devil of a time. Because the gluten in this needs to relax. You put the dough there. You take a bowl. You put it over the top. And you let that dough rest for 30 minutes. Here's our rested dough, 30 minutes later. It gets longer and longer and longer. One more, okay. It's getting longer and longer, and if you find that it's difficult for you to work with a piece that long, you can always cut it in half. Doesn't this make a difference? So if you're going to be in the pasta business or you happen to make a lot of pasta, this is a good investment. And just cut yourself some pieces like that, you see? I'm gonna let you cut a few. As you cut them, you want to put them on a towel. And don't use a towel like this. A fuzzy towel you don't want to use because some of the fibers could end up on the pasta. You always want to use a cotton towel, okay? That's good to know, especially if your pasta is a little wetter than this. This is a fairly dry one. And you keep going until you have enough sheets to make a pan of a lasagna. Lasagne verdi alla bolognese. So for this ragu, we're using 3 kinds of meat. We're using ground veal, ground pork, and ground beef, a ½ pound of each. And then we need pancetta for this. So this is pancetta. I'm sure you've worked with this before. This is Italian unsmoked bacon. It's from the belly of the pig. You often find it with peppercorns. And this is going to give a lot of nice flavor to the ragu. And then we need our aromatic vegetables for this, which are onions, celery, and carrots. We're going to mince this up. And this is going to become what is called a battuto, because battuto means to beat down. So we're making this into a mince, a very fine mince. With this, we are going to add some tomato paste, salt, pepper, red wine, or if you wanted to use white, you could, but red wine, and at the end, to finish it off and give it a really nice velvety texture, milk, or you could use cream. Here's the second sauce that's going to go with the lasagne verdi alla bolognese. You're going to make the besciamella, which translates to a white sauce, cream sauce. And this is going to start with some unsalted butter. Italians always use unsalted butter and then salt as they go along. Flour in equal proportions. We have a half a cup of unsalted butter in bits and a half a cup of unbleached flour. So we want to melt the butter first. When the butter is melted, that's when you want to get your whisk ready. Let's put this back on now here. Get your whisk ready. Oops, put that down low. And you're going to whisk in the flour. So here's the flour. Here's your trusty whisk. And why don't you whisk that in slowly, a little bit at a time. What you want to do is avoid any lumps. Once all of the flour is in, we're going to add a little bit of salt to that. And then we're going to add milk. And it's really critical that when you add the milk already be hot. So it's up to temperature, so you don't bring down the temperature of what's in the pot if you were using cold milk. So it's really good to start with hot milk. And you're going to cook this until it's thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. So it's almost like pancake consistency. So you want to get about 5 layers. Another layer of the bechamel over the top. And just spread that very lightly. Now, lasagna like this, as I said earlier, does not have thick layers of ingredients. Very thin layers. And we're going to spread that very thinly. Then we're going to add this Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, the real Parmesan cheese of the region that we've been cooking from, Emilia-Romagna. Cow's milk cheese, often called the king of cheeses. And we grated it. Here it is. We're going to give that a little sprinkling. So this lasagna is very different than what most people are used to, with the thick layers of ricotta cheese and mozzarella. And now I think you have the idea, and I'm going to let you finish. Once you have it all together, we're going to put a piece of foil over the top of it. We're going to bake it, and then we're going to take the foil off the last 10 minutes. We don't want it to be really crusty brown. We just want it to have a nice little golden color over the top.